you better make sure that like the people, the engineers, developers, the data scientists who are building with these tools absolutely love it. Because oftentimes that decision maker, the senior person who might sign the check, they don't even understand that technology.
Welcome to the EntailAI podcast, where we go behind the scenes with top marketing leaders and innovators who are driving growth for their brands. In today's episode, we are joined by Michael Ortega, a marketing leader with almost 2 decades of experience. Michael has worked at KPMG, IBM Aspera, and Databricks, where he started his journey in AI and ML marketing. Michael is currently the head of marketing at Predabase, an AI platform designed for engineers to create custom LLMs and ML models. Join us as Michael gives us the scoop on marketing to developers with authenticity.
Marketing in general is quite challenging for most companies, and B2B even more than B2C companies. And now marketing for developers is, I think, kind of like one of the most challenging types of marketing, because from my experience, from what I see, I mean, when it comes to content for developers is quite difficult because the people who create that content need to be developers, which are, kind of like rare. I mean, difficult to find good ones who are good developers, and also good developers that can create content. So that's one challenging part of it. And another thing, just speaking from my experience, is also that developers are very, very specific. They're not very forgiving when you make mistakes, I think. So even the content you create, even your marketing has to be spot on, I would imagine. So yeah, I mean, I would like to hear from you, Michael, about your experience.
I think marketing to these audiences, right? I think it's really important to remember. Well, one, when you talk about like marketing in the AI and ML tech space, at the core, you're marketing to developers, right? And, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One, that you need to be, like you mentioned, incredibly authentic. When you think about these audiences of data scientists, developers, engineers, they live in a world of math, code, rules-based systems. And so you can't really BS them, right? And that's actually the fastest way to erode trust with them. And, some like common examples where you see people like make missteps is, you talk about things like, developer tools, a lot of times performance is important. So performance benchmarks. Well, if you're going to show them a benchmark, like you better be sure that's a benchmark they can replicate, success they replicate. It can't be something you created in a very controlled lab that can't be replicated in the real world. And so I think with those audiences, one, just being authentic and true to like what you're talking about and what you're delivering is critical. And then I think the other thing to your point of like, getting into like content creation or program creation, like at a very high level, like keeping in mind that these people are builders, right? Developers, engineers, they're building stuff, right? So it's upon us as companies that are trying to sell them technology that they can build with, showing them how they can build with it. How can they build something cool? How can they build something that's going to solve one of their problems with our technology? And so I think, those are two things just to direct yourself when you're marketing to like developers, engineers, or data scientists, like keep those things in mind. And then AI in general is like always interesting space to be in because it's been on every CEO's like, agenda, top 5 agenda list for the last maybe decade at this point. But as we know, the success rates with AI are still like all over the place. There's still not a lot that's completely understood around how these technologies work, especially with the excitement around large language models and what those things mean and what they can do. And so, in this industry that's changing, very dynamic all the time. And so, an opportunity to be part of that, what the future looks like, but also acknowledge that like your audiences may not always totally understand how these things work and how do you bring them along for that journey.
I mean, I guess there's like a lot of moving parts, and I know where you can really like get a hold of like have certainty there. Because on one hand you have, in the situation you're in, I really want to understand how you formulate a strategy, like your marketing strategy, because on one hand you have what you discussed now, where your marketing is very, where your audience is very unforgiving. You have to be very authentic. The quality of every piece of content you put out, every marketing asset you produce has to be probably like top notch. And then you're in a super dynamic market. I mean, things are moving very quickly. You don't know what's going to come out next and what technologies people are going to use. And to add even more difficulty on top of that, it feels that the market feels almost a bit like bubbly, like the crypto time, where there's like new AI tools all the time coming out. But maybe from your angle, maybe that's an advantage. You're like the platform, right? So many companies use your product to develop their model, right? But how do you navigate? How do you create a marketing strategy with all these challenges?
Well, a couple of things. The market is definitely some bubbles going on, a lot of hype around large language models specifically. And because that's on everyone's mind, that's where you have to focus. And what's interesting is there's like traditional machine learning techniques that have been around for many years. It still work very well for many use cases, but the market's sort of focused over here. So you got to meet the market where they are. That being said, it will come full circle. Some of the hype will die. Large language models are not going anywhere, but there'll be a more balanced view of like how to use different techniques for different use cases. So you got to be able to navigate that and have like a good, hopefully you have good founders and engineers and technical folk who also have a good sense of where the industry is going and you guys are making the right bets. But I would say like from a marketing strategy perspective, like more broadly speaking, I think of it actually like startup marketing in general. And like my general mentality is, for lack of like better words, like this sort of like strategy of get shit done. I think, you can blurt that up if you need to. I think in when you're at a startup, it's super critical that you're moving fast, delivering stuff and learning, right? All the time and iterating on that. And so when I say like get stuff done, what I mean by that is like, you can't really wait to have like, hey, is this the best strategy? Do we have the best piece of content? Do we like, totally believe that like this is going to thing that makes the moment? Because you really don't know. And the only way you're going to win when you're like trailing some of these big entrenched players is to just move very quickly and do a lot of stuff. And now you want to like, prioritize your time. You can't do everything. So you try and pick the strategies and make the most impact. So when I think about like, my marketing strategy at a Series A company, one, it's like, hey, we got to move fast and get a lot done and learn quickly, right? So like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Get things out there, learn and iterate. The other thing in general is like, aside from like, we spend a lot of time on like making sure the right messaging, the right product and all that, that's super critical, like to any startup. But me as a marketer, I'm always thinking like, how am I giving my sales team at bats? Like, how am I getting them leads and customers in front of them? That's super critical. Like, I have to be keeping them busy at this stage so that we can, one, win new deals, but also learn. Like if our salespeople aren't talking to people, they probably aren't learning. We aren't learning. And so there are like tried and true tactics and strategies that I know work well. Like for example, when you're working with developers, like one, being in the communities they're at, are you at the meetups they're going to? Are you in the publications they're at? So in like my world, publications like The Sequence or Data Science Central, Kitty Nuggets, like being in those communities is really important, and being at the meetups where they're talking about cool tech. The other, to your point about like content, how do you actually like get people engaged, aware of who you are? Building things like tutorials, how-tos, that actually like have code snippets, right? And show them actually like how to use the products. Not just like talk theoretically about here's what you can do. Like, hey, take a cool use case. So maybe in our world of AI today, you want to automate like customer service, meaning, hey, I want to use ML technologies or large language models to get these call scripts in, classify these customer support calls into like high priority, low priority. Here's the issue they're dealing with. Is a technology, a pricing issue. You can use AI to do that. Maybe that's a hot use case. We should build a tutorial around that. Let's not just talk about it as an art of the possible. Let's show people how to do it. Let's give them the code samples and give them a frictionless way to try our platform to do that. Those sort of strategies work really well. So we spend a lot of time on what I'd say, generally speaking, is educational content, blogs, tutorials, how-tos.
And what channel do you usually do it through? Like, I mean, so you're saying communities is probably like one channel. It can be like online and maybe all like offline or like events or conferences.
Yeah, I mean, look, the lowest friction sort of path to market, I would say, well, one, social. So like build up your social presence. It's not going to happen on day one, but like anything you do, like, you want people to, it's all about building up like, right, a database and building up your audiences. You start on day one with a big fat zero. So it takes time, right? But if you invest in like your social channels, so LinkedIn, Twitter, if you're investing in, your blogging platform on your website over time, and you're going to have people, right, naturally come to your website, you're going to build up SEO volume and all that. But also like, we focus a lot on doing things that bring people into our database. So we run a webinar every 2 to 3 weeks because the friction just doesn't exist, right? Like if we feel we have good content, we have good speakers, and we rally around it, I can get a webinar out the door pretty quickly. And if you're building really compelling content, you can get good audiences. We're getting, 500-600 people to sign up for these things. It's not easy to do, but we also have like really compelling content because we try to stay on the forefront of what's happening. Those are just sort of our organic channels. And then we layer in like, paid channels where we want to really like bring in new names that we may not have access to that are harder to reach. And so to your point, like publications, we'll do e-blast publications, sponsored publications, work with influencers sometimes, who are really embedded in the community. So picking the right publications where your audiences are.
And when you talk about like it takes time to build it, like you're starting with a big fat zero, as you say, and you're talking about social media or blogging. So what's the time frame you usually like you look at when you start with a new business? It can be months easily. I mean, it can be more than 6 months, I guess, just to get the ball rolling, to start building some critical mass of people interested in you, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. And part of it is like, there's like great strategy and all that. Part of it is just, luck too. Like, are you fortunate to be in the right place, the right time with the right people, telling something compelling? So I feel like in our company, in many ways we are, because we're talking about large language models. This is one of the hottest technologies. It's one of the most misunderstood technologies today. So like, if we have something compelling to say about it, I feel confident in an audience. But to your point about like, how long does it take starting at zero? I remember like when we ran our first webinar, sitting down with my CEO and being like, hey, I just want to level set. It's possible that we have like 20 people registered for this thing. We don't have much of a database. We don't have these audiences. Like, let's just level set. And, we ran the webinar. It was around like multimodal machine learning, which is sort of a hot sort of topic too. And, through working with a couple like influencers that we did some sponsored content with, and just like putting stuff out on social and actually like manning our troops, meaning we have, 25 people at the company, giving them like, hey, here's the thing you're going to post on social, reach out to your network. Like, we're all part of this. Like, we're a startup. We either win together or lose together. So everyone's part of it. So really manning them with the tools they need to go promote our content. Our first webinar, we were able to get like, 150 people. So that was like a huge win for us, right?
That's quite a lot of people to get to like a first webinar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So where did you get them to sign up? Like, is it on your blog or on your LinkedIn or through their communities? How did you like promote the webinar itself?
Yeah, I think like for that one, it was a combination of one, like having the entire company rally around like, hey, promote this thing. We need this to be successful. Get it out to your network. It's right. Like, look, we're all data scientists, engineers. We know people at companies trying to solve the problem that we're trying to solve. So one, leveraging our networks through social primarily, right, like on social channels, promoting on LinkedIn, Twitter. The other was we worked with an influencer who's like a data scientist in the community who has like a following of 100,000 people because she runs a popular podcast. That strategy, that worked well. She promoted out through her networks as well.
Michael, have you seen that change in your, starting at Databricks years ago and now at the new company, like the evolution of developer or STEM influencers? Was that always there when you started, or like has that kind of ramped up in the last few years?
It's totally a new world for me, honestly. Like, I had not done sponsored content with influencers, in my previous life at Databricks. Not to say that people at Databricks didn't do it, but I don't remember it being a core strategy. I definitely think it's something that's sort of ramped up as of late. The thing with influencer marketing that I find, it can be a bit hit or miss, right? It can be like, for example, I'm always looking at cost per lead, right? Like, hey, what does this program cost me to generate 100 names? It can be hit or miss, right? And so when I look at like social media influencers versus like, something more traditional, like I know I can go for like for an e-blast to like a popular publication, right? And I'm looking at cost per lead. I know I can get like, let's just say X publication, I can get 400 names for like $4,000. If I'm looking at influencer posts and it's like, also $4,000 and I'm getting like 200 names, I'm comparing the quality names and what comes. So it's not a silver bullet. So I just want folks to know, like, it can work really, really well. What I've seen work well is, one, influencers who really are like embedded truly in that community. They don't just have a big following, and they're not just like posting stuff from sponsors, but actually like making it their own. They're involved in the creation of the content. What I've seen actually really of lately, I haven't tried yet, but looks really cool and compelling. I've seen some organizations that work with developers are actually like building a tutorial using their product. And so it's not just their like putting a post out saying, hey, check out this product or go to this webinar. They're actually building something cool and saying, look, here's how I built it. Watch this like 5-minute YouTube video. And then, by the way, here are the things you need to go do it yourself. I'm seeing that, to me, like that, if I'm a developer, that's probably going to appeal to me more than just like a sort of a, random post.
So with influencers, there's kind of the content generation side, and then there's like the buying influence. So, you can make content with influencer, you're getting it out there, but it may not really directly affect the buying decision of an end consumer. It's just, nice to have information. And in e-commerce, you see especially a lot of the buying decisions or the buying like conviction is being driven by a lot of influencers. Like, okay, I'm going to buy what this influencer tells me about. So do you see that in AI and in ML where you guys are, that buying decisions are really being driven by kind of expert opinions from some influencers, or it's more just about content and it's not there yet? Like, do you see that actually influencing the buying journey based on, big opinions?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, look, it's so much easier, like in sense, I would say it's easier to market B2C at all. Those have its own challenges, but it's a very different sort of like path and journey. Like B2B, as we know, you have like 50 touch points before someone buys anything, right? And the bar to entry is so much higher because you're about to spend maybe $100,000, $1 million, whatever the enterprise deal is. B2C, it's like, I'm going to buy a pair of jeans from like Gap or H&M. So if I see an influencer like showing it, I'm like, cool, I can click this ad, I'm going to buy it. Like, that's not a huge hit on me. For a company to buy something, enterprise technology, it's a much bigger ask. So I don't know yet how much they're influencing like that final purchase. It's harder to see. But what I will tell you in development marketing is that I very firmly believe that like you really have to win the hearts and the minds of the practitioners first, not just the executive, not just the VP and director. Like first, you better make sure that like the people, the engineers, developers, the data scientists who are building with these tools absolutely love it. Because oftentimes that decision maker, the senior person who might sign the check, they don't even understand that technology. They may not know how to use that technology. They're looking to their people at the ground level, their practitioners who are day in, day out to help make that recommendation. And a lot of these tools have low friction to like start using them. Either they're open source, it's freemium, right? You can get started. So developers are very much influencing that purchase because they're trying it out. They're building conviction. They're like bubbling it up to their leaders. So that's where I think like influencers like that I can see play a huge role with developers because the practitioners are following them to see what's the cool tech. What should I be trying? What are you up to? And that's helping them like adopt some of these new technologies or build conviction around it. So ultimately, like, is like an influencer impacting like a VP of of tech to like purchasing? I don't really know, but I know they have huge impact on definitely a practitioner level.
Got it. In the social side of things, like social media, you mentioned kind of like building that up and being authentic. So you mentioned tutorials as a content type. Is there, I don't know if it's a playbook or sort of like guiding pillars when you say, being authentic, what that particularly means? Like how do you express being an authentic brand, let's say on social media? And is it about being a brand or is it more about, the people who work or the technology? What is the authenticity that you're really trying to drive home?
At a startup, at this stage, we're not doing like a ton of brand marketing, but I do think about like, what is the brand we're trying to create? What do we stand for? What are we known for? Is it like, leading edge thought leadership? Are we like deep techie nerds? Like, what is the sort of persona? I think that's good to keep in mind. But I generally think like your question about like, how do you know you're creating good content stuff? Well, one, I think like I would recommend anyone like when they are going to like an enterprise tech company or an AI ML startup sort of thing, right? One thing to like look for is, do you have like conviction around the product, the engineers, and the team? Because it really starts with like a really kick-ass product. And it doesn't matter what all the packaging looks like. If your dog food sucks, the dog's not going to eat it, right? So same with tech, like more so than probably any other industry. Like if the tech is really bad, the engineers aren't building great, beautiful stuff, people aren't going to want to use it. It's not going to matter. So one, I'd say like have conviction about the team and the product as much as you can. Do your research, ask people who, are developers about what they think about this. And then I would say like, I also look for companies, I try and join companies where the founders and the engineers are like passionate about, educating and sharing the cool stuff like that they're building, especially like in an AI ML company, like they're building technologies that are groundbreaking. And I always try and tell my engineers like, be proud of what you're doing, be excited about it, like tell the world. And so when I join a company, I want to find engineers who want to do that, who want to share and educate. And that's like the key to like building good, authentic content. To your point, you said it earlier, Tom, that like, as a marketer, there's only so much content I create. I can't create deeply technical content. And so I need to leverage my engineers and my founders to help like fill that gap. And so if you're at a company where they don't see content creation as part of their role, they're not excited about it, you're going to hit a roadblock. And the best way to create authentic content is actually like lean into that. Say they're engineers. They know what it's like to live that day in, day out. And so can they help create tutorials, how-to content, show people the path forward? And if you are going to show, benchmarks and performance type, metrics, make sure you like share that experiment. You want people to feel like it's repeatable. So when I talk about authenticity, it's just showing those things to their core, not overstating, not making big like hand wavy claims. You're a marketer. You've obviously got to stretch the truth to some extent, right? You want to sound compelling, but don't make like a hand wavy claim that the developer is going to see right through.
Scaling your content marketing and SEO efforts can be difficult. If you're looking for a partner to help you succeed, EntailAI has the right tools to help you achieve your marketing goals. Find out more at the link in our bio or go to entail.ai to check out our range of solutions.
But okay, so that's very interesting for me because I see it in many companies. Adam has been comparing influencers to what happens on social media and so on. And so with content creation, content marketing originally was really about sharing the company's expertise. Then it turned into kind of like blogging, which you brought in like a blog writer and they would write whatever. now ChatGPT can basically write, I think, or Bard can provide better answers than just a regular blogger. So you need to go back. So we're actually going back to the basics, like super authentic, like eye level content, without all the BS, right? Um, and then you have the challenge, and again, it's even more in B2B companies, because in B2B companies, usually the expertise, the real like deep expertise, is with the team, either the tech team or the executives, and their time is always more like is expensive, and it's and they like you say, you have to get buy-in from them to create content, because it's not on their priority list, right? It's like, I can write code or I can write content. Like, what should I do? So how do you get them to be excited about that?
Yeah, look, that's always a challenge, right? Because you're pushing them against like the next hot product release versus like, hey, write this blog. I mean, product almost always trumps that, right? Because you're trying, as a startup, you've got to get really cool, compelling stuff to market quickly. And everyone agrees. If we don't do it today, someone might do it tomorrow before we get there. So you're always balanced against that. I think it comes down to like, well, one, prioritization and focus. Like really, we've fallen this trap, and I fallen this trap in other places where like sometimes you guys, I mentioned before, you want to move fast. So like, hey, any content is good content. And to some extent, that's true, right? You're building up just like awareness, SEO, volume, and all that. But when your resources are limited, you really do have to prioritize. Like, what are the things that we think are going to make the biggest impact from a content perspective? And just, doesn't have to like over-engineer, but temperature checking that and making sure like you keep that front of mind. So when you do ask for resources, or you're like making those trade-offs with your leadership team about like, hey, like I need an engineer to help with this, and this means they're not gonna be able to focus on that they're actually building a piece of content you have like a lot of conviction in. Doesn't mean it's always gonna work. Like, look, you're a startup, you gotta like have that mindset that we're gonna try stuff, we're gonna fail a lot, we're gonna succeed a lot too, but fail a lot, and that's okay. But I think having that prioritization is really important, and it's definitely helped us as we think through like, people's time. We've done some cool stuff too, where like, what I love about Predabase, and one thing we do is we do on these biannual offsites where the whole team goes together to some location for, about a week, twice a year. And we use that time, one, to do a lot of like product ideation, aligning on strategy and all that. And a couple of times we've done these sort of like blogathons or content-a-thons where we'll sort of give people different challenges or topics, and so it can work in teams and kind of create like a 60 to 70% content piece. We've had some good output from those like focused efforts that have really helped us sort of get content out the window. And then the other one, and that I would say like we've done, you try to find cheat codes, right? Whenever you're like creating content or, some marketer, you're always looking for these like, how can I do more with less? And so things like, it may not be the hardest hitting piece of content. So it won't be like a technical how-to, but taking a webinar or finding a good, decent like contractor technical writer who can then transcribe that into a blog post, right? So things like that, trying to find cheat codes where you can repurpose content or leverage others to create like derivative content. That's another thing that we try to do.
We've had the same challenge also, like in-house, like getting our team, whether developers or like our CTO or like even like account managers and so on, to also be part of content creation. So I mean, I really feel you there, because it's very interesting to me, like how you overcome that. And also in terms of the content you create, so you're talking about mostly like getting a developer to write a blog post. I mean, I can understand that, because also for myself, that's like, for me to write something is a very time-consuming task, and it's because you want to get it perfect. But also, so you focus mostly on blogs, or you also do videos? Because with developer content, you can do, like you said, a lot like how-tos and guides and so on. It can also be a YouTube or content you share, I know, even on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I would say like there's probably like 3 or 4 key types of content. So one, blogs are still like, king, and content is king, but blogs specifically in my mind, because, you talk about like SEO benefit, and we've had like really strong success around some certain strategies that have like, I'm talking about like our web traffic has like 2x from certain like blog pieces we've generated. But I'm a big fan of blogs for that reason alone. Like, and what we did, by the way, to cut it short, is like we wrote content tutorials around like the latest, hottest ML model. So there's something in the market, people are interested in it. There's not a lot of content around it. Being first to that, getting ranked in Google, like has paid dividends. So, writing content around some of these like hot topics very quickly can pay dividends. But so I'm a big fan of blogs. But to your point, like, and you're a leader. It's hard to like have your team rally on these things when you have to build good product. It's really challenging. And so one thing that's worked well for us is, obviously I mentioned the webinars. And what's nice about a webinar is you run it, and then you can flip it and turn it into like derivative content on YouTube. Whether you edit it, put some more effort into it, edit it into shorter clips, or just throw it up there. And honestly, like, because we're a pretty lean team, we don't have a ton of time to edit these videos oftentimes, so I'll throw them on YouTube, and we built a decent following there that's become a good like inbound funnel for us just by putting it on LinkedIn. So, by putting it on YouTube. So I'm a big fan of blogs, big fan of webinars, repurposing that. And then, we from time to time, the engineers will throw together like a short demo video that's like pretty low ask for them, right? 2 to 3 minute recording, maybe some minor editing. That can be relatively easy, and we can throw that on YouTube or promote it on social. So I would say those are our main content vehicles right now. And then on the blog side, of course, in marketing, we try to help them as much as possible. So like maybe they're handling the code, we're doing more of the narrative building. But yeah, I definitely appreciate the challenges there.
And in terms of webinars, the topics you select for the webinars, how do you go about it? Is it more like about solving challenges like trending topics, or is it more about like how to use your product, or somewhere in between? Because you probably want to align that. Even if you want to speak, okay, say I'm a good marketer, I understand I want to just speak about our product because people care about themselves and about their problems, but you're probably looking to align the topics that you speak about with your product, so it's quite close to what you're selling, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like try not to oversell, right? Like, and I would say like even with our tutorials, everything we do, I think one of the smartest things you can do as a marketer is like show them how to solve a problem on using your product, right? And make your product maybe like not the star of it. It's just, showing how to do it. But by doing it on your product, they're learning how great and wonderful and elegant and beautiful the experience is using your product, right? So like there's that trick of like not overselling, but your product is weaved throughout. And so I'd say like the webinars, it's not like we don't run topics that are like focused around like, hey, this is our product feature, come check it out. I mean, every now and then if we have a launch that we feel is pretty cool, we might do that. But we usually I'm a big fan of like the problem solution framing. What is the problem they're trying to solve? A use case or a technical, it could be a business use case like automated customer service we talked about with AI, or a technical use case. How do I fine tune this model or customize this model? Start with that. Talk about the challenges they may face today, and then show them how they can solve it, both like best practice and also like specifically with your platform. Then show them how to solve with your platform. Now, one of the nice things about Predabase or like Databricks I worked at as well, they have big open source products. So the things we show them, a lot of times we'll start also with like an open source tool that we also manage. So that's like, hey, here's a nice, no barrier way to get started. We also make sure at Predabase we have a free trial that's really easy to use with like requires nothing, no credit card, so that if you want to use the product too to try out what we're showing them, again, moving that friction, they can do it. So I'd say at the webinars, this content, we try and anchor around a problem, a use case, but then the platform and tools are weaved in to show them how to do it. Every now and then we do some thought leadership too, and mix in more thought leadership where it really is just talking with experts on best practices, educational in nature, that we aren't talking about our product. We do that too. I would say that's also a leg of the stool.
I understand your product is or your marketing is PLG, right? Like people can sign up on their own. They don't need like a demo call or anything like that, right?
Yes and no. I like to believe, so PLG, like, I don't know if it's like a controversial take. I don't know that PLG really exists except for like a product that you have to build like the perfect user experience to have like PLG that truly works without sales, right? It's got to be like beautiful, easy, intuitive. And so I'm a big fan of like sales or product-led sales, PLS, right? And what I mean by that is like have a great free trial, like make it as easy and beautiful as possible for them to start, but also have like sales ready that are like, jump in with the sales team, the sales engineers to show them how to get the most value of the product, to help carry them over the finish line. So I like to see those things work in concert together.
What does it mean practically? So you get people to sign up to your product, and then you get them. You're trying to get them to jump on a sales call, on a demo call after they sign up. That's how you do it.
Yeah, so we have like two ways that people can purchase, right? So they can actually go and like purchase, like and sort of actually go do that with little to no sales interaction. But then if you want to get like but I would say like anyone who comes in, that we try to get them to talk to sales for sure. We try to connect them with sales, try to like facilitate a demo, a deeper conversation. And honestly, like in my experience, the customers who get the most value of the platform are the ones who are going to talk to sales, because we're going to get them like, world-class support. We'll get like some of our best sales engineers on there who've built really cool, models for other customers, help customers be really successful. We can show them like really how to like achieve the most value of the platform. And then also like ultimately, like if the platform's giving them value, get them to like an enterprise deal, which is over the, the life of their agreement, to save them a lot of money and get them more value. So we make it possible for people to purchase without really interacting with sales. But the goal, I think, is to get them in front of a salesperson. I think it's mutually beneficial.
I'm asking that just because you're talking about webinars and blogs and social media content and thought leadership. So I'm wondering, I mean, can you really track and attribute sales and which channels they came through? Do you know if can you measure if sales are, or if signups coming through the blog or through your YouTubes that you published? Do you have any way of tracking that?
Blogs, we look at a little bit differently from metrics perspective. Like this is a really actually like hot topic for us right now. We're spending a lot of time on metrics. It's hard when you're just like caveat by saying like, look, we're at it's myself. I have one marketer reports to me. I probably have like half a dozen contractors doing everything from marketing operations to web design development to, you name it, all the things, content creation. So more or less we're core team of two, but we have many who support us. But when you're a small team, you can't do everything perfectly well. So metrics is a tough one. We have Salesforce, we have HubSpot implemented. I work with marketing ops teams to help build analytics. I would say like it's still an area we're spending more time on to clean up the data. I can absolutely see though, like, anywhere that a marketing qualified lead came in, we track that. Not as much on the blog front, but anything like a webinar, a demand campaign, so anything in paid, anything we talked about, influencer leads, sponsoring content of a third party, we can track all that. And then I can attribute, that down funnel to like a campaign or to like an actual person in a deal. But to your point, like there's many touches that play a role in that. And so there's different attribution models you can use. You can say like, what was the last touch they had? What was the last campaign or channel they touched before that it became like a sales meeting? So we usually use a sales meeting as like a first measurement point or then an opportunity. You can do that. Blogs, we don't look at it in that lens because we don't have like the infrastructure yet at the size of our company to track like those sort of like, those other companies can track intent and interaction with blogs and website. We don't have that yet. What I look for in blogs though is like, hey, is this driving like organic web traffic? That's what I'm really looking for. And I can see that. Like I see the impact it's having, and it's not small. So, I'm a big proponent of that.
Tom and I talk about that a lot. And I think there's a lot of conversation around blogs and search, especially when you have Bard coming out as maybe the new interface for search. So what's your take on that? Like in kind of the lineup of touch points that you have, how important is the blog for you? So it kind of sounds like it is working. So do you see that as a really good traffic source? Do you see that kind of changing now with Bard and what that might look like? Do you think that's going to stay the same?
I haven't really thought of it in the context of Bard and like how like these LM interfaces might change that. But I would say it's hugely important. I generally think of like when I try and, so I had like an intern and I'm trying to explain like how I think about B2B marketing. And I think about like the buyer's journey, right? And there's sort of three basic stages of like awareness, engagement, and like purchase consideration. And like awareness is all about, they don't even know the problem exists. They don't know you exist, right? So you got to first like make them realize this problem exists. Then engagement is like really make them realize like, hey, Predabase can solve this problem in a unique way. And the final stage of like consideration is like, oh, cool, I want to actually try them out. How do I try them out? And so when I create content, I generally like, we don't use that as like a super like hard framework, but as generally I try and think like, hey, do we have content across that funnel? Because you never know when someone's going to come in. So I'm constantly trying to create content that's sort of at the beginning of the funnel, like building awareness, how we address its problems exist, middle funnel, convincing them right with tutorials that they can solve with us. So one, I like always trying to create content across that funnel is a good practice. But then with like blogs, like, yeah, so I can see, right? Like I can look in like Google Search Console and I can see, okay, or Google Analytics, you can see like, what are the pages that people are entering in your website? And as I mentioned before, like the first, I know from previous experience blogs work, but we saw specifically like one blog in general. We wrote about a really hot LLM, Llama 2 when it came out. And we like one of the first people to put a fine tuning sort of how-to tutorial around it. And we saw a massive spike in traffic. And so, I think, and so we've kind of kept that up. And so you can see, right, like how these blogs collectively contribute traffic to your site. And I sometimes, like I was telling someone the other day, it's a little bit of like death by 1,000 cuts. Like you're lucky, like you will have some blogs that just kill it, but sometimes it's like the culmination of 100 blogs, but that might double, triple, quadruple your web traffic. And yeah, it took a lot of effort to get there, but that is not a small feat. And you can't just buy that quality traffic. So
it kind of parlays the interesting about like the death by 1,000 cuts, like sometimes you get this just sort of the Hail Mary or the nuclear bomb of a blog post and it brings in a ton of traffic, but it's probably more sustainable. It's kind of the rolling, boulder that just sort of picks up over time. So Tom and I talk a lot about, if you're familiar with the multi-arm bandit model, like exploitation versus exploration. So you need to put some cost out there to generate that content. And you want to balance like on the very macro level of your whole organization. So do you think about that a lot? And when you look at, how much you guys are spending versus how much you guys are recouping, do you guys manage that as an org? And are there specific like cost centers in the process, like that you want to drive down so your exploitation on the comeback is better? Are there kind of cost centers you're trying to always drive down in the marketing ops to scale efficiently?
Yes. I mean, we're still pretty early on, right? We're Series A. We're fortunate that we were like well funded. We've only been marketing this last year. So it was really like the last year was like, hey, how do we go from zero to something meaningful? And we have a database of like, 10,000 names. We generate a lot of MQLs. It's gotten really well. But we're not at the point yet of like driving efficiency. And that's going to come soon, right? So to your point of like, looking at cost per lead and contribution to like, the opportunities and like CAC and acquisition costs and all that. We generally track that, right? So I can tell you like, hey, this channel looks like it's more effective than others, but we have not gone to the point of like driving deep efficiency. That will come as we get to the, like right now, it's been like as an early stage company, so much is like finding ICP, finding fit, making sure we've had something repeatable and starting to like crank that engine. And so it's a lot of experimentation in that versus like, okay, now we've like nailed our audience, we've nailed the product, like let's just light the fires. And so I think we're pretty close to that. I think we're seeing really good traction. So now it's, as we get into next year, it'll probably be a bit more about efficiency.
So I think a lot of people are looking at AI tools, and we see it a lot as kind of like this great white hope of being able to drive down, creation costs and being able to scale up their output. But then on the contra side that Tom and I talk about a lot is if it really degrades your ability to produce unique content because you're coming out with the same tools that everyone is using, and are you just going to be releasing more into the echo chamber? So you have, the most expertise of AI here, and you see it from that angle. So as a marketer, especially for an AI company in a world where everyone is using AI tools, where does that fit in? Do you think that enhances your ability to make unique content? Do you feel like you need to push more into the human element now because content is already becoming so ubiquitous and so generated, so it's kind of even less authentic, maybe, to your point?
Well, there's definitely a lot of noise. You got to break through the noise. That's always a challenge. There's so much content. Everyone's creating stuff. Everyone's promising things. I think and this is like again, like a very trite quote that I think everyone has said since the advent of ChatGPT. I've seen this quote on LinkedIn more than anything else, which is like, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by fill in the blank job title who uses AI, right? So I won't be replaced by a marketer, but I'll be replaced by a marketer who uses AI. I mean, I'm not saying anything new. It's been said a million times, but it's actually pretty true. And not in the sense that we'll be replaced, whatever, put that aside. But that these tools, in my opinion, actually like can help you be more efficient. And so I think finding that balance of like, how can you use like a content generation tool, like a GPT or something else to create content, or do research or summarize it or do something meaningful, acknowledging that like human in the loop is critical. And so if you're like going in with the expectation, like, I'm going to go have this tool today, maybe in the future will be different, but today that it's going to write like a meaningful blog for me, probably not going to get like a good response. And so I've used these tools for like idea generation. One of the cool ones, I had it come up with like t-shirt slogans for a shirt. And like the favorite slogan actually ended up being one that came from an LLM, which was like, I'm not overfit, I'm just well-trained or something like that. I remember saying like that. It was an ML joke, a nerdy data science joke. But the point is like, these tools can be helpful in like, some of the creative and like, getting the blockers removed, but I haven't seen them yet, like full on, write a end-to-end blog. I don't have a lot of faith in that based on what I've seen.
I can tell you something from our experience, and I mean, we of course, because of our type of business, we think and we talk about this a lot, and there's just a few things that are quite obvious that people kind of like they ignore or they just don't think about it, but it's like it's the elephant in the room, and it often becomes clear when there's like bubbles and when bubbles burst and you say, okay, like NFT has no value. I mean, it went like through the roof, but it was supposed to crash, and you saw that with crypto, and you see it whenever there's a bubble. And with content and AI, I mean, just Google AI marketing, and see what comes up. I mean, every kid on the block can basically use these tools to produce as much content as they want. And as a marketer, and that's one thing. Another thing I see a lot in companies, I mean, you speak to marketing leaders, and they get a lot of pressure from management to drive down costs because there's AI. But if you're a big company, you raise a lot of money, you're succeeding, whatever, do you think it makes sense for you to, first of all, do you think it makes sense for you to use the same tools as everyone else, doing exactly what everyone else does? How are you going to stand out? That's one thing. The other thing is how the numbers don't add up, because if you can just generate as much content as you want with these models, why do you even need to post them to publish them on your blog when everybody can just go and ask ChatGPT and get the answer there? Why would Google index that content for you to search for it, to find it, and then to go read it on a blog where you can just ask ChatGPT? So if ChatGPT can provide you the answer for a specific question, don't write content about it. And I'll give you an example, okay? Like, we used to have, like one of our clients used to create a lot of content. They do like profit and loss and stuff like that. So you used to do a lot of content about about spreadsheets, and you can have like how to do like this or that formula in a spreadsheet. And nowadays, if you need a spreadsheet formula, you just ask ChatGPT and it gives you the exact formula. Okay, you don't need to Google that anymore. So that type of content is obsolete now. It's like there's no reason to create it anymore, right? And that only shows you that other types of content, like you're saying, because if I need now machine learning, I need AI, and my company really needs to know what to do, and your developers share their own, unique perspectives, unique experience, that's what I find interesting. I can't find it on ChatGPT, these insights. It's not there, and this is the difference, because this is not something you can find on that TikTok of, you must use this tool or that tool, all the like hype tools. And this is how a bubble looks like. Because if everyone does it, again, the numbers don't add up. There's more content than people can consume. And this type of content is too cheap. So it's not interesting enough. So what is interesting is that unique content, like the webinar that you're doing, like you're showing how to solve a problem. And you see there's more and more demand for like real authentic content, rather than just, like whatever ChatGPT can come up with.
Absolutely. And I think like part of the bubble too is you see a lot of like thin wrapper companies too that are sitting on top of like a ChatGPT, and it's like, they're building something that feels like a feature versus like an end, and it's not defensible, right? So, same with the content. Like, I totally agree. Like, you got to find things that are unique, that are compelling. Yeah, so I guess back to my earlier point, like, make sure you work with really good engineers who have really good, they have a lot of conviction in the stuff they're building is really cool and have good perspectives and want to educate and help them, do that. And one of the things I said at the first offsite with all of them is like, part of my goal as a marketer is to make you guys famous. And I really believe that. Like, my engineers, they're building awesome stuff. I want to make them famous. Like, I want to put you on a stage. I want to help you build really cool content. You have really cool stories to tell. Like, help me help you tell them. And I think, leaning into that is really important when you work at like a developer-oriented organization.
I just wrote down what you said, because I really like that approach, like that you want to make your engineers famous. I think that's a winning approach, because engineers, I mean, some of them want to maybe be famous. Many of them, they just like to build stuff, and so they're kind of like they're willing to just sit and write code, which is super cool. But the fact that you help them to like share their expertise and put it out there for people to learn from that, I think that's great. And again, for me, if I need to solve a challenge, like, AI is moving so quickly, so what models should we use? And we speak about that also quite a lot, because, there's a lot of processes now that you can automate inside the company. We're like using this or that model, and all the time we think about, is it worthwhile like doing that? Is it something that's going to be automated tomorrow by OpenAI or another big company? Is it really something worth our while, And I think getting learning from people who struggle with these challenges on a daily basis, who are at the forefront of the technology, these are the people that I want to listen to, and this is the content that I want to. If it's content or if it's anything else, this is where I want to get my information from, So I think that's a very good approach. I haven't heard anyone till now say that like they want to make their engineers or whoever has the expertise in their organization are famous. That's super cool.
Thank you for including me on the show. I had a blast talking to you guys. Clearly, you live and breathe it. And obviously, you're an engineer by trade too. So I really enjoyed talking to you about it and rapping about it. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to the EntailAI podcast. Join us next time for another masterclass when we sit down with a marketing luminary to reveal their path to success.